Hello and welcome back to Boring Dad Gaming, where today we're going to be playing more Arcadie, Secondborn. Going to pick it up where we left off. So we now have the power of Aether. We don't know quite how to use it, but we have sort of used it one time, but we're going to get trained in it, I think. We're now also the king, having seen our sister, who is the queen, get killed at the hands of Stanislas, the traitor. So we're going to carry on where we left things off. Right, so we're on our way back to the castle from Nathaniel's place. Nathaniel being the sage, I suppose you'd call him, who's the expert in Aether and how to use it. But we're going to rest. A couple of days fly by. You feel better incrementally. You start eating more, spending more time out of your room, and can now actually stand being in the sunlight without a migraine overtaking you. You're supposed to meet with your commanders this morning. CYRIL sent you a message stating his need to consult you on important matters. I don't feel out of place. Maybe we'll say it feels strange, but we're slowly coming to terms with our new role. King Boring. It has a strange, unnatural ring to it. But you must come to terms with it. With your family's death, with yourself between the last rampart before the disappearance of their legacy. With yourself between the last rampart. Don't quite understand that sentence. Your attendant helps you dress for the day in the middle of your vast quarters. The walls, although white, are rarely bare, gleaming draperies cascading along their length in blue and gold lines. Portraits of your family adorn the spaces between the large windows. One with your parents, another with both you and Ariana, and the last one with the four of you, at what must be a display of the powerful family at the helm of Arcadie. There is otherwise enough space for a large, elegant desk and several bookcases, a piano, a round table with 4 chairs, and of course a large space reserved for your bed. Why would we take this portraits of our family down? We'll keep them up. We're going to leave the decor as it is. These are the royal quarters, your mother's old chambers. She rarely spent time here, hence the absence of any personal items. Still, the colour scheme is very reminiscent of what you remember of her taste. Your attendant, Leon, is a man of few words, extreme in his efficiency, but also excessive in his taciturnity. He will respond if you ask him a question, of course, but only in the sparsest of sentences, and will otherwise be perfectly content to attend to his duties in complete silence. As Leon awaits your decision regarding your current choice of apparel, you look back at your reflection cast by the large mirror in front of the vast cupboards holding various garments in your size. Military uniform, elegant suit, or casual outfit. Let's go with the elegant suit. I don't want to be seen as a warmonger. We're going to take a different approach as monarch. After helping you fasten your belt and buttons, Leon presents you with your sword. It is no longer your trusty silver-handled blade, lost in the battle against Stanislas, but a golden one, its pommel engraved with the Arcadie rose and encrusted with rubies. Well, assassins could lurk around every corner, as we've seen, so we're going to take the sword with us. Leon buckles the sword to your side, then bows deeply as he exits your chambers. Once alone, you find your gaze flitting back towards the portraits adorning the wall. You step closer, looking up at the lifelike depiction of Ariana's proud grin, the resolute green eyes of your mother, and the calming aura of your father. My heart is still heavy with grief, but I must carry on. You take a deep breath, blinking quickly, steadying yourself. There is much to be done. You have to be strong, for their sake. When you leave your quarters, you find yourself in a long hallway. A red carpet runs its length, softening your steps as you head for the council room, where CYRIL asked you to meet. It is sunny outside, the warm rays spilling on you through the tall glass panes. You take a turn and find yourself almost at your destination, judging by the presence of both your commanders in front of a wooden double door. "Good morning, Boring," CYRIL greets you, swivelling to face you with a warm smile. You pause a moment to take in his new appearance. He has forgone the military blue uniform of Arcadie commanders in favour of a new, all-black one. It has a higher collar, gilt lace weaved through it, and at the edge of its sleeves trimmed in rich gold that effortlessly blends with his blonde hair. Clasped to his epaulettes, a black cape with a vivid inner red colour cascades down his back, stopping at his shins near his polished black leather boots. Had this been your first time meeting him, you would have immediately been able to tell that he is amongst the highest ranking members of your army. Still, despite the glimmer of gold, there is a sombre air about CYRIL. Whether it comes from his now stilted smile or from the overall darkness of his outfit, you cannot exactly say. "Good morning, CYRIL. Is today a special occasion?" you ask, your eyes on his clothing. He follows your gaze with a curious frown and gives a light chuckle as he replies, "Oh, not particularly. This is my usual attire when presiding over the noble assembly. Appearances do matter, in a few select circumstances." Without a word, Wilfred unlatches the double door that they had both been standing by and holds it open, ostensibly waiting for you to enter. You do so, and when CYRIL passes the threshold behind you, Wilfred closes the door behind your small group. The room you find yourself in is well lit, bathed in sunlight spilling from the windows lining its right side. Its middle is occupied by a long, heavy wooden table, chairs stacked all around it. CYRIL drops a book on its polished surface, pulling a chair and turning to watch you with a soft smile. He seems to be waiting for you to sit before he does. Wilfred does not give protocol the same care, marching to the other side of the table and sitting down without ceremony. The glare he directs at the wall and the clenching of his jaw tell you that he is eager to get this meeting started and over with. I sit alone at the end of the table. "Let us begin." CYRIL opens his heavy tome, leafing through the pages until he lands on a half-empty one. "I've arranged a meeting with the noble assembly later this evening." There is a tinge of empathetic despondency in his silvery voice as he explains, "We have yet to officially inform them of Ariana's passing. As the king, how we announce it is up to you. The nobles will also be expecting to hear of your plans in regards to the kingdom at large, and to the military conflicts in particular. Which topic would you like to go over first, Boring?" he asks, his attentive eyes set back on you. "Do you mean Your Majesty?" is what I want to say. About Ariana's death. CYRIL looks at you intently. She was a beloved sister and daughter. The people in the noble should be aware of that. CYRIL writes down a few words on his book, pen sliding effortlessly over the yellowish page. "I will draft a letter. Once you've informed the noble assembly, we'll need to message the forts and the rest of our cities. Let's discuss the current military conflicts. Stanislas hasn't made a move since the battle." This is Wilfred. "Stanislas hasn't made a move since the battle," Wilfred says. "He hasn't sent out any sort of message either." His eye is sharp, glowing intensely blue in the sunlight, and there is a crease between his brows as he continues. "He must be gathering his strength and awaiting Coltland's reinforcements." "I'd like to send him a message." "What kind of message?" CYRIL asks. How about an amnesty? Yeah, maybe. An offer for an amnesty in exchange for them laying down their weapons. Wilfred's eyes go round. "Are you quite sure?" CYRIL asks, blinking rapidly. "He has murdered your parents as well as your sister." "And is dead set on murdering you," Wilfred adds. "I am sure." "Fair enough." "How large is Coltland's army?" "Far smaller than ours," Wilfred replies. "The only problem is that a significant portion of our forces is already engaged on the southern front." "Captain May is requesting more soldiers, by the way," CYRIL says. "She won't be getting any. We can't spare them," Wilfred decides. Then, as if startled, he looks at you. "Of course, you're the king. You have the final say in this, Your Majesty." "How about recruiting more soldiers?" "Oh." Who's speaking? "Oh, we can do that, although it may take a while. In the meantime, we should definitely call on our allies," CYRIL says, and his gaze drops, or rather, ally. He steeples his fingers, expression serious. "Arrington has been on Arcadie's side ever since your late parents' union, chiefly as our main trade partner, but they would definitely be willing to assist us. I will send them a request for aid." "Please do." Cyril nods, jotting a few words down in his book. What is the situation on the Eastern Front? You inquire. Wilfred glances your way, arms tightly fastened together. Commander Valerie is watching our borders for any sign of Khazri incursion. He sniffs absently, gaze darting away to lay on the map in the middle of the table. They might believe now would be the perfect time to strike. They wouldn't be wrong, Cyril comments despondently, although my men on the other side of the sea haven't reported any unusual activity from the Khazri. Gaze fastened to his handwriting, Cyril proposes, let us move to our next order of business. There is a task I have assigned to the peacekeeping force, ever since Stanislas's betrayal. Their efforts have only now borne their fruit. When he finally raises his eyes, it is to glance Wilfred's way, a gauging quality to his gaze. It then slides over to you, just as he resumes speaking. I have located Stanislas's family. Wilfred's face falls. What of it? Well, what do you wish to be done with them? He asks you, tone diligently neutral. We can bring them here to Goldridge. They might have useful information regarding Stanislas. We could probably find a use for them, as bargaining chips, for example. Let's bring them here. We'll see then. Cyril nods. Very well. I've discussed all I needed to discuss. I don't mind him assembling the assembly. You signal that the meeting should be concluded. Your commanders stand. Thank you, Boring. I will let you know when the assembly is ready to welcome you. And with that, the meeting is adjourned. Later. When evening comes, so does with it the smell of the sea breeze, like a bit of salt at the back of your palate. The tint of the dying sun falling behind the horizon splatters the sky in jets of pink, mauve and blue, while wispy orange clouds lazily slide towards the west. Cyril comes to meet you at the door of your chambers, a smile set on his ever-smooth face, a hand grasping the pommel of the sword at his hip. The assembly is expecting you, he says in the dim corridor. Please follow me, Boring. He is very familiar. Your steps sound sharp over the wooden floorboards, filling the hallway, but not loud enough to drown out the cries of faraway gulls. You pass a couple of servants. They bow to both of you, though you notice their curtsy is a touch more pronounced in Cyril's direction. You climb a flight of stairs, stopping right before an entryway. Cyril looks at you from under his blonde lashes. A word of warning, he says. The nobles of the assembly can be a little, unwieldy. I suggest remaining calm, no matter what argument they try to start. Thank you for the words of advice, Cyril. Of course. You make it sound like you're expecting them to start an argument. His smile is dispassionate. The noble assembly is rather predictable. Just keep in mind that you are the king. Unless proven unfit to rule, they have to abide by your word. I take a deep breath. Okay, I'm ready. His hand finds the handle, and he adds, before twisting it, I'll be right there with you. Should you require assistance, I will provide it to the best of my abilities. You then enter the hall of the noble assembly. It is large, larger than you remember, dotted with candles and aether chandeliers. You can hardly tell it isn't day anymore. You emerge at the very top of the room, on a platform 3 steps higher than the attendants. There are 2 chairs and a lectern to your left. Before you are several rows of seats, all with vibrant green upholstery, and some 20 faces scrutinizing you. You spot Wilfred downwind to the side, flanking another entrance. Cyril marches onward, stopping in the middle of the raised platform. Lords and ladies of the assembly, his voice booms in the hall, reverberating against the round ceiling. I suspect you're all aware of why we are here today. He looks at you, and in his eye you discern a silent question, a request for permission. I let him introduce me. You give a small nod, and so he continues. I present to you Boring. A hand raised elegantly in your direction, and he declares, solemnity vibrating in his voice, your king. I advance. You walk forward, careful to project as much confidence and presence as possible. You come to stand near Cyril at about the same time a voice mutters, What's the meaning of this?
Where's Ariana? Boring? What's he doing here?
Soon the hall is abuzz with the whispers and half-spoken questions of the assembly.
Sir Cyril,
a voice cuts through the looming hubbub. A man stands up, long limbs and white hair, blue uniform adorned with gleaming military medals.
The rumours were indeed true, weren't they?
He crosses his arms, shaking his head, his thin moustache curling up.
Stanislas did defeat the all-powerful, gifted Ariana.
Almost a snicker, and he adds,
Not so powerful, was she?
And you are?
Lord Pascal Lacombe.
Oh, sorry, it's CYRIL.
Lord Pascal Lacombe.
CYRIL says next to you, cape swinging as he takes a step forward.
Please do mind your words. You are well aware that His Majesty Boring has not only lost his only sibling, but both his parents as well.
The man does look a little sheepish at that.
You speak the truth, Sir Cyril.
Turning his grey eyes to you, he gives a small bow.
I apologize. Please allow me to offer you my sincerest condolences.
A shuffle and the whole attendance stands. They all join in bowing to you. Thank you. After a beat, Lord Lacombe straightens himself. So do the rest of the nobles. There is a suspect glimmer to his eye as he next speaks.
While we are immensely chagrined by the passing of Queen Ariana, and of your parents before her, you have to understand that the Assembly cannot simply accept you as Arcadie's new monarch. The position might be hereditary,
he continues, hands behind his back, a sidelong glance at you while he moves around the hall, the air of a professor dictating words of knowledge to his students.
But the Assembly can oppose the crowning of an unsuitable candidate. In the case of Ariana, may her soul rest peacefully in the aether, she may have been brash, she may have been unwise, she may have been far too young, too immature, but she was strong, experienced in the ways of war. More than that, she was a sheer force of nature, a power to be reckoned with. The merest knowledge of her existence has been keeping the Khazri at bay. And now, sadly, tragically, she is gone.
His hands flop down, theatrical, and CYRIL tenses next to you.
There is not a soul left in the Arcadie line, except for you,
Pascal continues, the ghost of a rueful smile splitting his lips.
You, the second-born. You with no accomplishment to speak of, barely any experience of the world, no known talent. Yet here you are, claiming the title of king for yourself. You, a Serene's child of peace, not meant to ever experience hardship, locked away in a golden cage like a fragile dove. You have no knowledge of war, no capacity for statecraft.
He stops, faces you squarely, expression set, and declares,
The noble assembly does not recognize your claim for the throne.
A heavy silence falls over the hall. Lacombe has spoken his piece. None of the other nobles try to contradict him. Quite the opposite, they're nodding approvingly in his direction. Next to you, CYRIL does not move, his face a carefully crafted mask of neutrality, and when, feeling your gaze on him, he turns your way, you still can barely make anything of his thoughts. A few steps down, Wilfred is far easier to read, fiery glare directed at the back of Lacombe's skull. His stance is taut, and you suspect he's very much tempted to put an end to the debate with a blow of his sword. But what do we do? I think we're going to go for the first option. There's no need for violence. I know enough about statecraft to resolve this. We are, after all, a student of political science, as we said at the beginning. I am certain you're a knowledgeable man, Lord Lacombe, you say, so it pains me a little to hear you speak of myself so erroneously. I have been taught to fight and to lead from a young age. I may have limited field experience, but that does not negate my excellent instructor's work, whom I'm certain you intimately know, as they have served in the Khazri War under your very command. Besides, there is a fact you have not been made aware of. Just as Ariana did before me, I have been bestowed with the gift. A collective wonderment, and Lacombe frowns.
You have not? He counters. If you had, we would have been made aware a long time ago. You would have been an asset to be used, not to be hidden away.
I only acquired the gift recently. He only frowns deeper.
You do not need to know the details, Lord Lacombe,
CYRIL says before Pascal can verbalise the question at the tip of his tongue.
Aether is not your domain.
The Lord doesn't speak further. Instead, he retreats to sit down in a free seat.
Thank you, Lord Lacombe, for your contribution to this meeting,
CYRIL says.
If the lords and ladies will it, and His Majesty wishes it, we will now move on to other, more important topics.
It is your cue to start discussing what you intend to do about Stanislas and the southern tribes. You could also simply decide to adjourn the meeting. First, Stanislas. think we're going to avoid bloodshed, you know. I think we're going to try and resolve it peacefully. I mean, Stanislas himself may have to be executed, but maybe we don't wage war on everybody else. That's playing into their image of us and our family, isn't it? I will avoid unnecessary bloodshed if at all possible. I say that we call on our closest ally, Arrington, to gather more troops and put an end to this conflict. As for the south, we will find a compromise. Nothing you say really garners any sort of reaction from the nobles. They watch your every move, listen to your word, but do not object nor approve any of it. There is a lull when you finish speaking. CYRIL seizes the moment to say, "Lords and ladies of the assembly, we will now adjourn the meeting until a later time where the king will have need of you." You leave the hall. "You did well, your majesty," Wilfred says. It's only the three of you now, back in the more intimate setting of your meeting room. "For a moment there I feared it would be coming to blows," CYRIL says, chin balanced over his intertwined fingers, elbows on the table's surface. "It could have, but Boring spoke remarkably well." Standing up, careful not to make his chair scrape the floor in the process, CYRIL says, "I propose we all retire for the night." Wilfred says nothing, but starts rising from his chair, nonetheless. CYRIL's gaze meets with yours, and his lips pull into a small, warm smile. Wilfred does not linger and wishes you both a good night before departing. "Let's get you back to your quarters, shall we?" CYRIL proposes, heading for the door. You leave the meeting room together and walk in companionable silence through the hallways, their nightly gloom tempered by the aether chandeliers and the occasional candle. Royal guards stand at attention when you reach the entrance of your quarters. Then they open the double door for you with nary a sound. Here the floor is carpeted in red, cushioning your steps as you move slowly towards the door leading to your room. Before you reach it, you pass several doorways, the boudoir, the dressing room, the study, and down the corridor to your right, facing east, the bathroom, impressive by both its size and its overlooking view of the sea. Soon you're standing in front of the mahogany door of your bedroom. You turn towards CYRIL, who slowly blinks at you, his seemingly perpetual smile curving his lips. "Wait here," he says. His gaze on you is soft, unmistakably fond, yet as he continues staring into your eyes it turns sharper, its amber light darkening enough that you feel a strange twist seizing your stomach. "Boring." You see him take a moment to collect his thoughts, a careful expression across his face. "Could we step inside? There is something I would like to discuss with you." Here it comes. And CYRIL's making the first move, I suppose, so... all right, let's go with it. Of course. He nods, and you both enter your room. CYRIL looks around the space, a glint of curiosity in his honey gaze, but as you come to stand near him, his full attention shifts back to you. "Boring." Your name passing his lips again. Before you can linger on how that simple fact makes you feel, CYRIL resumes. "You are now the true king of Arcadie, and I am now officially at your orders." A beat of silence. "Forgive me if it seems like I am rambling," he says, body pivoting to face yours. "I am not entirely sure how to broach this subject." Which subject would that be? His hands gather behind his back while his gaze remains riveted to you. "The subject of my attraction to you." Straight to the point, then. "There's no point in beating around the bush." He takes a deep, long breath. "You are handsome, brave, intelligent and strong, and I truly enjoy and appreciate your company. But you are the king, first and foremost, and no matter how intense, I'd rather not entertain a one-sided infatuation." Oh, well, all right, here we go. In for a penny. It isn't one-sided. A smile pulls on his lips. "That is, good to know." He unhooks the hands behind his back, letting them return to his sides, and steps forward. You're already close, and you are now on the verge of touching. A smell of ginger and tea hits you, sweet like vanilla and warm like jasmine. It sends your heartbeat racing. "To tell you the truth, what I feel for you goes beyond simple attraction or mere infatuation. I find my waking moments invaded by idle thoughts of you, my every dream shaped by my desire for you. I can barely focus when I stand this close to you because I'm too busy thinking about kissing you." Your breath catches in your throat. "But more than that, what I truly wish is for you to know no more pain, no more sadness. I wish to see you smile. I wish to see you prevail and experience the happiness that I know you deserve. Reject him. That seems a bit cruel. Thank you, CYRIL. Your chest feels warmer, not in an unpleasant way, but in one that raises goosebumps over your arm when CYRIL's gaze flickers to your lips, when his fingers graze yours. He leans in and kisses you. It is a soft, tender touch, his hands moving upwards to cradle your face as he seals his mouth over yours. Your own hands bunch up in his clothes, tugging him closer, and it is only when you tilt your head, catching his lower lip between your own, that the air shifts, that the kiss turns urgent. The press of his tongue, his hand gliding down your neck, and your lips part. It is all-consuming, drumming with the strong beats of your heart in your chest. Your body wishes for more. It is not getting enough, and when you start feeling light-headed with the heat, that makes your hair stand on end, CYRIL breaks the kiss. It almost pulls a whimper out of you. Boring, he says, voice broken. Do you truly want this? Being with me? It strikes you as a rather superfluous question, but before you can voice your opinion, he continues. I am a Lavignac. The noble assembly will not approve of us being an item. Why not? You say, in as steady a breath as you can muster. He lets go of you then, dragging a hand through his blonde hair. My family finances many of the other noble houses' endeavours. If we are to be together in a serious capacity, they would see it as my family losing its independence, as their debt being passed onto the throne. That would make them more difficult for you to deal with. I don't care. I want to be with you. I was hoping you would say that. He pulls you close and kisses you slowly, but with a passion that makes you both feverish. His body is blood-hot through his uniform, and as your fingers close over the dark fabric, a swirl of contentment sends a heady haze through you. He presses himself against you, to deepen the kiss, to feel and taste you, tongue brushing against yours and along the inner side of your mouth. You're light-headed when he breaks the kiss, but he doesn't let you go just yet, staring at you with a small smile on his flushed face. This feels right, he says in a whisper, doesn't it? Before you can respond, CYRIL's expression turns contrite, and he reluctantly tears his eyes and hands off of you. As much as I don't wish to, I have to leave you for the night, Boring. Why, you begin. Where are you going? He lets out a sigh. I have to convene with my lieutenants. He presses a warm kiss to your lips. I will make it up to you, I promise. He smiles, drifting away towards the door and closing it behind him after a final good-night wish. Some days later. Let's check on our relationship status now. CYRIL's 75 now. Wilfred's 62. I think Wilfred was higher. And Nathaniel Langard. Oh, Nathaniel. Yeah. 61%. He quite likes us. Let's have a look at our status. Verging towards more serious now. Diplomatic. Bold. Emotional. Friendly. I think those are all good things. Politics, 58. Swordsmanship, 42. We're getting a bit more ether charge. Noble support is low. Army support, reasonable. Pacifist support, high. Or is that just us? We're a pacifist. Yeah, I think we're 73% pacifist, which sounds about right. Meeting with CYRIL and Wilfred has become a regular, almost daily occurrence. They take great care in keeping you up to date with the current enemy manoeuvres on active fronts, as well as giving you brief accounts of the latest intelligence gathered by the peacekeeping force. Today, Wilfred is a little late, only appearing in the meeting room after CYRIL has already gone through the most recent intelligence report. He says nothing, not even parting with a good morning, walking to his habitual seat in silence and sitting with barely a glance in either your directions. Good morning, Sir Wilfred. He blinks at you. Oh, it's anything but. Stanislas is sending letters to our forts, our soldiers. He points a sharp glare at CYRIL. Are you aware of this? Have you told him? I was about to, the blonde commander says, and slides a folded letter out of his book. That does nothing to temper Wilfred's exasperation. How has that drivel even managed to make its way into our soldiers' hands? CYRIL pauses a moment. You've read it? Of course I've read it. Half the city garrison's read it. CYRIL hands you the letter, but his eyes remain trained on Wilfred, locked as they are in a staring contest. I sincerely doubt half the garrison even received it. It's only begun circulating yesterday. And why haven't you done or said anything about it since yesterday? Those who have received it are busy blabbering to the whole unit about it. Wilfred rebuffs with a biting tone. You take the letter out of its envelope to read through it. Brothers and sisters, loyal soldiers of Arcadie, as you ready yourselves to bear arms against me and your brethren, on the orders of your king for my so-called crimes of treason and regicide against King Lavic, Queen Serene, and Queen Ariana, remember that your brethren and I have chosen to stand against the royal family for their crimes of greed, bloodthirst, and utter disregard for their subjects' lives. Remember that the royal family, not I, have decreed that you are to bleed, to die in their name, to seek vengeance for the so-called crimes perpetuated against them. Remember the friend, the sister, the brother, the father, the mother. Worse, the son or daughter you have lost in battle, in senseless wars waged for the glory of the royal family. Remember that the Arcadie are not fabled beings of legend, but creatures of flesh and blood. Your brethren and I have brought down Ariana, bearer of the gift, and the same fate awaits her brother Boring should he not forsake his ill-gotten throne. Remember that we fight against the royal family to put an end to their blood-stained history, to reclaim our freedom and the peace that has deserted our kingdom ever since the crown has sat on their heads. Any who would join our ranks in the fight against the tyranny of the Arcadie will be welcomed with open arms and no questions asked. Join us, and help us release our kingdom from the greed and bloodthirst of the Arcadie, and bring back peace and freedom in our realm. Only you can decide to stand on the right side of the upcoming war. Commander Stanislas Duval. Cyril and Wilfred have gone silent, waiting for your reaction. What has been the troops' reaction to this? You ask, eye still glued to the missive. Who's talking? Maybe Cyril? Outwardly they made no reaction, but they are discussing the contents of the letter away from their superior officers.
You should have moved immediately to stop this from circulating, Cyril.
Rushing to suppress it would only have given it more credence. Your overzealousness is unnecessary, Wilfred. Turning back to you, Cyril adds, however, we do have to formulate an answer to this, not to Stanislas, of course, but a declaration for our soldiers. Let's turn it on its head. Cyril directs his full attention to you, ready to listen. Stanislas needs to be beaten at his own game. According to him, the Arcadie are bloodthirsty monsters, aren't they? Let's turn it back on him. He murdered our parents in cold blood, while they were unarmed and signing a peace treaty with our oldest enemy. He seized our castle, slaughtering any who would not join his ranks. He's trying to lead the kingdom into civil war. How much blood would that spill? You lace your fingers together. Let us remind the troops of the facts rather than this fantasy Stanislas is trying to spin. Cyril nods his approval. You're right, of course. I will send word to the officers, he concludes, moving to extract a map out of the bookcase. He soon returns to splay it in the middle of the table. No change with Stanislas. He is still holed up in the royal castle. He pauses for a beat to meet your eyes. Your message has reached him, but as we might have expected, he made no answer. Other than that, he seems intent on waiting for Coltland reinforcements. He'll certainly move out as soon as they've reached him. Have Coltland troops been sighted at the border, or in Arcadie? You ask.
They have at the northern border, Wilfred replies. Unchallenged, they would need 2 months to reach the royal castle.
He stands up, looking down at the map.
We need more soldiers to take them on.
As we discussed the other day, I've sent word to our ally, Arrington, Cyril declares. A representative will be arriving within the week to discuss how they will be able to help us. Good. Thank you, Cyril. He nods appreciatively.
Arrington is not our only recourse. Every able-bodied citizen of Arcadie is sworn to defend the kingdom should the need arise.
Wilfred crosses his arms, a deep air of duty across his features.
The kingdom needs them now.
He faces you, eyes still darkened by solemn thoughts.
In any case, we will meet the Coltland reinforcements on the field and prevent them from reaching the royal castle.
Considering the matter settled, Cyril changes the subject. Boring, I suppose you remember that failed attempt on your life back at Fort Queenscliff? I've had some of my men keep a close eye on Captain Gardelia since then. He leafs through his heavy leather-bound book, pausing on a page scrawled with pencil-drawn notes. He's been heard saying, I quote, that you were never meant to be in power, that you were the second-born to be married off to dignitaries, and that you know nothing of war. Amongst other unsavoury monikers that he's taken to calling you. He turns a page. There is no proof that he had sent the 2 would-be assassins to Queenscliff, however. Cyril meets your gaze with a calm expression. What do you wish to be done? Would you say that he is a good captain?
Fort de Liers is always in impeccable order, Cyril replies. His soldiers are well trained, well equipped, and very loyal to him. Considering his views, the latter is not a good thing.
What do you suggest we do? Cyril glances over at Wilfred before replying.
Transfer him out of Fort de Liers. I can arrange a post for him at the western border. It would seem important enough to keep him quiet and happy and prevent him from making any waves. The post in question would be fairly inconsequential, as we're at peace with Arrington.
Wilfred disagrees.
Why should we cover up for him? Loyalty to the king is paramount. Demote or discharge him and see les majestes, or cite les majestes or insubordination as reason.
I don't want to seem like a monster or a tyrant so close to the start, but something has to happen. They'll transfer him to some inconsequential post. Wilfred huffs a little.
He's getting off easy.
I wouldn't say that, says Cyril with a little one-shouldered shrug.
One last thing, Boring. Nathaniel has sent word for you.
He lifts a small square of yellowed parchment.
He's wondering whether you'd be interested in learning more about Aether, and is inviting you to meet him this afternoon.
This afternoon won't work, Wilfred counters, a concerned line between his eyebrows.
I have prior engagements, so I won't be able to accompany you, Your Majesty.
I can't come either, but Nathaniel is a busy man as well, Cyril says. If you turn down today's invitation, he might not extend another one. Should you indeed intend to learn more about Aether, I encourage you to go. It's boring.
Yeah, mastering Aether is too important to let such an opportunity slip by. With that matter settled, the meeting reaches an end for the day. You reach Nathaniel's abode rather quickly, flanked by your royal guards, hidden away in your royal carriage. Once you step out of it, a couple of ladies passing by, dressed in blue and yellow dresses, gawk at you. They quickly gather their wits, however, and resume their walk while stealing not quite subtle glances at you, and while you wonder what exactly warranted their visible shock and subsequent curiosity, one of your guards advances to ask you,
"Where to, Your Majesty?"
I don't need guards doing my bidding. I go and knock on Nathaniel's door myself. You approach Nathaniel's front door, raising a hand to give it a knock.
Your Majesty,
says a smooth voice to your right. It is a figure robed in muted red, hood lined in gold obscuring their features as they slither out of a dark alleyway a few feet away. I cautiously face them, watching their every move. The individual's hands move, pushing back the hood and exposing a full head of shoulder-length, jet-black hair. Nathaniel's brown gaze twinkles with a smile as it meets with yours.
Yes.
I don't know why I did that voice then.
Such coincidence meeting you here, without your commanders to boot. Truly today is my lucky day.
I don't think that was quite his voice. You sent a message calling me here, you remind him.
Indeed, he says flippant as he moves closer. That was very good thinking on my part. Even better thinking of yours to bring guards and a carriage. We will need both where we're going.
What are you talking about, you ask.
What am I talking about?
He parrots, sidling up to you, a little too close for comfort.
You'll see when we get there, Your Majesty.
Words drop like honeydew from his tongue, and you find yourself getting... I don't really care, to be honest. Unaffected. You stare at him long enough for his grin to falter and for a circumspect line to appear between his brows. Where are we going, I insist. He hums a flighty tune.
Somewhere close by.
I need more details than that.
Why?
He looks you up and down languidly, gaze crawling over you so slow you can almost feel it over your skin.
Are you afraid?
No, I'm cautious. He rolls his eyes emphatically. I need to know where we're going.
Oh, you're no fun, he huffs and clicks his tongue. We're going right outside the city in a quiet meadow right by Lake Grandside.
Let us go, then.
Let's.
He steps towards your carriage and watches as you follow. Nathaniel does not sit with you inside the carriage. Rather, he takes a seat next to the driver and gives him pointers to reach the location where he intends to help you learn more about Aether. The carriage has to stop when the road does. You enter the forest on foot, walking among the trees, the shrubs, and the singing birds for a few minutes before arriving in a fresh glade, green air charged with the smell of fresh water from the lake nearby. sun rays making the water surface shimmer like jewelled stones. Nathaniel tosses you a sideways glance over his shoulder.
"Tell your guards to wait by the carriage,"
he requests. Very well. You signal your guards to leave. They obey with a quick bow. You're alone now. And he chooses that moment to give you the biggest grin, wrinkling the corner of his feline gaze. Before you can comment, he proceeds to pull the red robes over his head in a smooth motion. I keep staring. I can tell he's wearing clothes underneath. Beneath the robes is a long-sleeved front-laced tunic, tucked into cream-coloured pants. He shrugs off the robes with a thinner smile.
It's hot in here,"
he says by way of explanation, then proceeds to meander around the meadow, robes folded and tucked under his arm.
"Aether,"
he says, loud, and then looks back in your direction as he continues,
"is everywhere around us. It's in the air we breathe, in the grass we step on, in these trees, in the pools of water collected from the rain."
His brown boot scuffs at a barren spot of land, and you notice twigs and rocks have been carefully laid there. He kneels low, pulling something out of his pocket, and after a few seconds, a flame erupts from the small improvised campfire.
"Fire is also a source of aether," he continues. "The easiest to gather, actually."
He stands up, his sharp attention on you as he adds,
"It was Ariana's first choice."
I ride the wave of pain, but don't let it distract me.
"Anyway,"
he says eventually, with a light shrug of his thin shoulders,
"all I'm trying to say is, think of aether as energy. You can't gather aether out of a rock, for example, unless it's been previously imbued by another aether user. But you can gather it from anything that does have energy."
With that said, he decides to settle down next to the crackling fire. Moments of silence pass, and he doesn't move or speak further. Aren't you supposed to be teaching me something? He looks up at you.
"I've already shown you how to gather aether. Close your eyes, focus, breathe slow. I'm not an aether user as much as I'd like to be, so I can't really point you in any specific direction. Pick a source of energy, focus on it, gather it. Don't overdo it, though. You don't want to be bedridden with a migraine again, do you?"
I try to focus on the lake. You move towards the clear, clean lake. As you tread closer, you feel the humid fresh air against your skin, cooling you down from the hot sun rays filtering through the sparse cloud coverage. There is some grass near the edge. You sit down on it, stretching your feet towards the lake, and watch as light bounces off its surface in 100 twinkles. You bend a little, hand forward, and the tips of your fingers dip below the surface. Chilly, yet not wholly unpleasant. Your whole hand descends into the water, and you feel the cold crawling up your forearm and through your blood. You close your eyes. The sensation is soothing somewhat. It is an easy task to put away momentarily every other thought in a corner of your mind, letting it fill instead with the sound of water licking the shore and the feeling of freshness seeping into your skin. You don't know how long it's been when you shake yourself out of the trance you had slipped into, since you sat down near the bank of Lake Grandside. You draw a deep breath and your hand out of the water. Droplets fly when you shake them off your fingers, and you stand, a little dizzy, to survey your surroundings. The campfire is still lit, albeit not as brightly as the last time you saw it, and Nathaniel is no longer sitting in front of it, but farther away with a handful of wildflowers. I'll go near him. As you approach, he briefly detaches his sight from the flowers in his grasp, only to go back to arranging them in a haphazard bouquet. You sit down on the trunk of a fallen tree and watch him a moment as he plucks a nearby poppy to aid his lump of sprouts. Maybe we'll make a joke of it. I didn't take you for a florist. He barely glances your way. Fine, I don't say anything.
"Do you feel any different?" he asks.
Most of his attention occupied by the gathering of the white star jasmines blooming at his feet. Not really, you reply.
"You should continue gathering aether, then." He lifts his head. "You seem to be doing all right."
He goes back to shuffling his flowers around.
"Unless you had questions."
What's your story? So, you begin readjusting yourself a little over the tree bark, as sitting there is proving to be increasingly uncomfortable. What's your story, Nathaniel? His side eye is not entirely unexpected.
"I don't have a story to tell. Sorry."
You know what I mean.
Are you curious about me, Your Majesty?
Yes, I am curious about you. His stare lasts a while, ending with a light shrug of his shoulders.
I came into your mother's service some 10 years ago, around Ariana's 15th birthday. Her previous Aether instructor was an utter buffoon and hadn't even realized she had the gift. Not long after that, the Khazri decided to try and invade Arcadie. It was brutal, but all around short-lived, as CYRIL managed to seize a cargo of their sulfur bombs. I suggested Serene infuse them with Aether and use them against their fleet. We blew up the ships and supply lines into smithereens. The war was over quickly after that.
Nathaniel plucks a long blade of grass out of the soil, using it to fasten his impromptu bouquet.
You know the rest. Your mother died, Ariana died, and here we are,
he says, eyes scanning you for any change in expression. You didn't really tell me anything about yourself, you remark.
Didn't I? What more would you like to know? How I like my tea?
Sure, why not?
I despise tea.
He stands up.
We're wasting time. We came here for you to learn how to gather Aether. The day is almost done. I suggest you try again.
You move closer towards the fireplace. It is warmer here, crackles filling the air with a pleasant, comforting scent of smoke, and as you stare into the dancing flames, thinking only of your steady breathing, you let yourself close your eyes. The hot air seeps into your boots and your clothes, and you feel calmer, for a while, ears filled by the sound of the wood sizzling, limbs and muscles soothed by the steady warmth. You open your eyes at one point, feeling ants scurrying over your left arm, but there's nothing there, and you return your focus to your breathing.
Your Majesty, it's night time.
You startle out of your trance, blinking bleary eyes at the dying fire in front of you. Looking around, you realise the sun is indeed setting down, sky set alight in shades of orange, pink and purple, and as you go to stand, you can't help the hiss that escapes your lips, a painful pulse at your left temple.
Easy there, overdid it, did you?
A shuffling close by and a hand closes around your shoulder, helping you up.
Focus on breathing, deeply.
You oblige, taking a deep breath. You're hit by the pungent smell of hyacinth right under your nose. You snap your head away on instinct and your migraine lances you, a sharp sting growing steadily on the path to overtaking the whole of your skull. You feel Nathaniel pulling on your shoulder and the flowers get shoved in your face again.
Listen to me and breathe. It'll help with the pain.
You force yourself still and take in the strong, sweet scent, letting it fill your lungs. Breathe in and then out, slowly. The headache doesn't completely recede, but it stops its painful conquest of your head. Its pounding grows more and more subdued, and soon you're able to blink your eyes open and not immediately shrink away from the dying source of light. Nathaniel pulls the bouquet away.
Feeling better?
Yes, thank you.
Time to head back then,
he says after a beat. You make your way back to your carriage and depart for your palace. And that is where I think we're going to leave it for today, with the start of our Aether training concluded. Learned a little bit more about Nathaniel, but not a particular amount, I suppose. Some interesting developments, obviously, on our relationship with CYRIL. Things moving ahead apace on that angle. But I hope you enjoyed this episode of Arcadie Secondborn, and if you did enjoy it, please do hit the thumbs up button on the video, subscribe to the channel if you've not done so, and leave a comment. Let me know what you think about how it's going so far. Love to hear from you. But that's it for now, so I'll say goodbye, and I'll see you next time.